In this video tutorial, we're going to be looking at Adobe Photoshop and understanding how we can use the liquify tool and a couple of other layering techniques to develop our understanding of how we can create different layers and alter an image to give a altered effect. So what we're going to start with is going on to Google. Now, a lot of you will be familiar with Google to some degree. We're going to go to images. So for this exercise, I'm just going to focus on a human face. So rather than use a specific face from someone you might know, I'm just going to go into Google Images and just search for face. I might just go model face as a quick one. Hopefully I'm able to find one quite quickly. Any of these will do for this particular work that we're doing. Now, when we are working this and we find this image, we see here these numbers, 236 by 333. The higher these numbers, the better quality the image. So these are actually quite low. So even though it looks quite clear on the screen, we actually want to go and find a slightly higher one. And if you look here, if I move the mouse over, you notice this number here is reflected as 1296 by 1300. So much higher quality. That'll give us a much higher result when we're working with our images. So let me click on that. But if we come in, we see this writing across here, which we don't actually want. Let me just find another one on here that I can use. That one looks like it's okay. You can, of course, get the image from this area here, but it's still not quite what we're after. Let's go view image. We should get a much higher quality image. That will be fine. I'm going to save that image. And I want you to concentrate where you're actually going to save it. So do you save it to the desktop? Make sure you're able to go and find it. If you've got a network drive access, I'd prefer to save it to that. And you just look down the side here. If you're going to go into student resources, that's another option. But just for the time being, I'm going to save it straight on the desktop. Not even going to change the name. And we go save. Now if we look at my desktop, here is my file here. The next thing we want to do is go into Photoshop, which is the application we're going to be using today. And we're going to look at using the liquify tool to touch up the image slightly, or in this particular case, actually make it not a true representation of what it started out to be. Then we're going to apply some cool effects to it. And I'll try and show as many things as I can in a short period of time. So you may find you'll do this activity and that you need to actually swap between the video and then back to the tutorial. But one of the things that you can do is just pause it, play it, and do as many things as you can. Right, first thing is, I like to, when I've got that, just click at the top and drag it down to the side. And all I want to do is click and drag the image onto the screen. Nice, simple motion like that. And then we have our image, click and drag that back up the top, and that pops back into shape. Now what we've got over here, I'm going to show you a couple of things and we'll see what goes wrong here. But you notice we've got our padlock symbol here, which means that I can't actually do that much with it. Because my intended feature I want to use today is a liquify, and I'm on a lock path. So when I go in there, I may run into a problem later on. To get rid of this padlock, just double click on it, and it removes the shape. I've clicked on it too many times, that's come up. What we're going to do now, once you've removed that, you may find you may have to right click and rasterize the layer. So I want you to check and make sure that padlock is gone and that you've right clicked and you can rasterize the layer. If it's grayed out like this, it's already done, there's nothing for you to do. But if it appears with this black writing, you will need to click on it. And that allows us to actually edit the image. So what we then do is go up to Filter, Liquify, and we have a number of options that we've got to use here. The first one is the forward warp tool. So if I click and do some things on the screen, I can see I can sort of mix and mash up quite a few things, not really doing too much to it. I'll restore that. The idea would be that if you have the nose and you want to sort of alter it a little bit, you can click and drag, and you can see there I'm actually moving the skin tone, skin reflections a little bit there. Give it a little bit of a change. The next one you've got is the reconstruct tool. So if I did do that, I can click on this tool here, just go over it, and it restores back to its original self. We have the pucker tool, which, as you see, if I click on it, makes it smaller. To make the size of the tool we're using, just come over to size. Oh, too big, make that a lot smaller. And you could click and make that entire area smaller. You can alter the pressure if it lets me on this one, won't let me on this. We just try and get a few things. You can notice that we're actually moving that quite a bit. We're going to restore it. The next one is the bloat tool, which is obviously the opposite to what we're using. Let's make this a bit bigger. Let's go a little bit bigger on her eye. Give her a bigger nose. Make this tool a little bit smaller. Give it some, probably zoom in a bit more. Some bigger lips, if you want to do that, you can. And then we have our last one we look at, which is the push left tool. So what this does is generally how you see models, they can actually resize. So you click and go down, actually can extend the neckline as you see. Clicking and going the other way reduces that size. So let me do a couple of them. So get the neck back, click and drag up. You can make that a little bit smaller. And same thing going the other way, you could make that quite a bit smaller as you're going through. That's how they touch up some of the models that you see. What we want to then look at is, I might make this person into a little bit of an elf. So let me sort of destroy this picture a little bit if that's okay. So I'm just going to use a whole bunch of tools here. Give her a nice big eye. A couple of nice big eyes. Let me use the push tool. Make her a bit, give her some long earlobes, why not? And push that out a little bit there, that's fine. Fiddle around with it. Sort of let it lose, I really want it to lose its shape a bit. I don't really want it to resemble too much of what we started with. Okay, once we've got that done, go OK. They'll then come back to our main screen. What we're going to look at here is selecting an area and actually altering the color. Now this can take a while to do. So we're going to look at some of the tools on the side over here. We've got a couple of here's with the lasso tool, we could use that. But I prefer to use the quick selection tool. We'll get this tool with a plus. What that allows us to do is we can click on certain areas. So if I click and drag over that object, I've highlighted the eye. If that wasn't what I wanted, I can click here, which will undo part of the effect. I'm just going to completely remove it, and that takes it back. So back to the plus, re-highlight, get my eye all selected. Now you might find you want to be a bit more delicate with what you're doing, and you can reduce the size of that. The easiest way to do it is with the open close parentheses brackets on the keyboard. Just pressing and moving that will do that. But you also might want to have a look at the image a bit closer. To do that, hold down the Alt key and scroll in, and you can actually get a little bit closer into what you're doing, be a little bit more refined with your work, get a little bit closer to the eye. That looks a lot better. What we then do, one of the cool features you've got in Photoshop is changing layers or changing what the image looks like. So you can go layers, which does a whole layer. I'm really going to focus on just the selection. So we go adjustments, hue and saturation, there's a lot there to look at. I'm going to focus on just this one here, and we're going to change the color of the eye. So you can sort of see we can change a few things here. To make it a little bit more bold, if we go colorize, it will actually give us a totally different sort of color range, make it a little bit more vibrant. So I tend to like to use that feature if I can. We have a purple eye. Once you're happy with that, go OK. Now to deselect that, the shortcut is Control D. And that deselects the object. Hold down the Alt key, using the scroll on the mouse, scroll out. And of course you can repeat that, doing that over here. So highlight that, same thing again. Hue and saturation, colorize, and go back to our purple color. Go OK, Control D to deselect. Then of course you could do things like changing the lip color. Now of course I've selected the teeth, you'd probably be a little bit more accurate there. Use the key, let me have another go. Image adjustments, hue and saturation. Let's see, oh there you go. Give it a nice green lips, go OK. Control D to deselect. and we've got that highlighted. Now one of the other cool things you've got is you can highlight the background and delete it for a bit of a tool to say cut and paste or move it elsewhere. I'll just quickly do that. So highlight, hit the delete key, go through. If you make a mistake, there's a couple of things you can do. Command Z will go back a step or two. If you actually click on the arrows up here, it brings up a whole selection tool. You can actually go back to different stages, move up the screen. When you've got to the right point, hit the trash can here, and that will revert you back to that stage. And that will literally go all the way back to our very start if you want to do that. So just be mindful where you're clicking, because it will actually take you all the way back. There are quite a few things that you've learned here in a short little while. It's probably best to practice, go through it, bring in your images, and just make sure you're focusing on where the tools are, where you're actually using them, and what you're doing with them. So it's just practice, getting into the habit of doing different things and working on, let me just tick that away, and just working with each tool. If you're going to work within the images or layer, have a go at some of the others, see what the vibrance does, color balance, the black and white, the photo filter is another good one. That's good for changing day and night scenes. And we can do polarized gradient maps. We'll get to as many as we can, but learn the basics, master this one, and enjoy practice.